Your biological signature is currently suffering from communicative dependency. Look at your authority threshold, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate urge to fill the silence, to explain your presence, or to use soft language, apologies, filler words, upward inflections, to lower the social tension, effectively allowing the matrix to install a supplication protocol into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a state of terminal presence liquidation. The matrix has successfully branded openness and talkativeness as charisma, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, dark charisma is just the biological signal of absolute stillness, used to inform the herd that your value is not dependent on their verbal confirmation. You are living in a state of chronic noise infection, where your activation energy is being spent negotiating for status, rather than projecting it as an immutable fact. The system doesn't want your authority, it wants your explanations to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully indexed as a subordinate unit for the architect. Thousands of years ago, charisma was defined by the biological density of the silence. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that talking was a tracking beacon for the insecure. He mastered primal grounding in the law of the heavy gaze. He didn't seek rapport or small talk within the tribal hierarchy. He offered the visual rage of a total, unyielding, non-verbal dominance, the state where your physical stillness creates a vacuum that others feel compelled to fill. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the dark charisma, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves its highest strategic density only when it operates as an unmoved observer, forces the environment to adapt to its silence. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to engage. He possessed a mind that treated self-explanation as a biological toxin, stripping away the social sludge until only the monolith of his raw, sharpened presence remained. He understood that the moment you speak to be noticed, you have surrendered your apex signature. To project authority, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of being outgoing. Dark charisma is the implementation of the collar of the absolute presence, the refusal of social noise, for your final internal dominance. The system wants you to be engaging and expressive, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the social sensor grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of interaction hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently silent. You must develop a clinical, cold contempt for mainstream social skills. Mirroring is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of reactivity. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the blind spots of the social radar. Use the temporal noose of the total verbal withdrawal to force the room into a state of submission. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the collar of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose authority is a cold physical fact. The matrix cannot simulate the leverage of a man who commands the room without moving a muscle. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be understood is the knot. Every introductory sentence you use to justify your arrival, and every polite smile you offer to appear harmless, is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the total presence audit. Your mind is a biological weapon, and it is currently being jammed by the static of your own socialized fear of being awkward. You must perform a hard reset of the interaction instincts. Stop being expressive, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop participating in their shared laughter and verbal validation myths, the digital propaganda designed to make you believe that communication is a victory. Stop using their social protocols, the narratives designed to keep you in a state of constant strategic failure. You must prune your life of verbal parasites. If a connection requires you to explain yourself to be respected, it is a biological saboteur. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute silence. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the authority by choice and sovereign by design. Command: seal the lips or be the noise. The neural interface of your social projection is currently suffering from validation-seeking static. Look at your interaction reflex, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate urge to nod, tilt your head, or fidget, the act of discharging presence when someone addresses you, effectively allowing the matrix to install a supplication loop into your apex frequency through the primal fear of social friction. You are a biological unit experiencing a total present sovereignty liquidation. The matrix has successfully replaced your primal predator stillness with a systemic reactivity. You believe that by being approachable, you are being likable, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, approachability is just a biological cage used to ensure you remain at eye level with the mediocre. This is the visual rage of the domesticated male, seeing your high-value activation energy being bled out into maintaining rapport and softening your body language, while the true operator remains in a state of absolute zero, converting his total rejection of social warmth into a biological weight pins the room into a state of involuntary compliance. The system doesn't want your gravity, it wants your agreeableness to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully socialized and placed in a public service loop. In the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking stone, the master was the one who could survive the total absence of feedback. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that movement was a tracking beacon for the prey. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an ocular autocrat, a figure who understood that the only way to retain authority was to be the primary stillness in a world of twitching animals. He didn't seek engagement or validation within the tribal hierarchy. He provided the visual rage of a total, unannounced kinetic embargo. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of asymmetric presence, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves peak respect density only when it realizes it is in the presence of a force that does not mirror the herd. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to blink. He possessed a mind that treated social smiling as a biological trap, a signal that his trajectory was being averaged out by the herd. He understood that the moment you adjust your posture for others, you have surrendered your apex signature and become predictable biomass. To be a master, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of making others feel comfortable. Dark charisma is the activation of the anti-chew, the refusal to be socially digested protocol for your final internal dominance. The Matrix wants you to be expressive and empathetic, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the recognition grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of interaction hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently unresponsive. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream soft skills. Active listening, nodding, and verbal cues is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of subordination. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of the total kinetic lockdown to drive the system's influence into a state of tracking failure. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose authority is an unshakable physical fact. The one who can go the longest without moving his hands while speaking is the one who eventually owns the frame. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be liked is the knot. Every polite gesture you make to avoid appearing arrogant, and every apologetic glance you give when taking up space is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the second stage of the presence rearmament. Your mind is a biological engine, and it is currently being choked by the validation sludge of the unworthy. You must perform a total neural asset reset. Stop being relatable, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop being a node in their network of mutual social comfort. Stop being a unit of compliance in their ledger of men who can be dismissed with a glance. You must prune your life with the collar of absolute sovereignty. If an interaction requires you to perform to be respected, the interaction is a biological failure. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute stillness. You must learn to love the friction-heavy hours where the noise of the collective is muted and your dominance is the only signal in the dark. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the presence by choice and sovereign by design. Command: freeze the frame or be the background. Your biological trajectory has reached the terminal velocity of socialized transparency. Look at your exposure threshold, the exact moment your nervous system triggers a panic response because you have entered a room and refused to broadcast your intent, ignored the social handshakes, and entered the high-stakes vacuum where you are the only unreadable variable in a world of oversharers. You are a biological system in a state of chronic activation decay. The system has successfully replaced your apex mimics present sovereignty with a series of communication obligations disguised as being open. You no longer seek to dominate your own neural landscape through unmoving stillness. You seek to be engaging. You no longer seek to be the sovereign. You seek to be the great conversationalist. This is the visual rage of the terminal slave, seeing your life force being digitized and archived in social cues and verbal approvals, while your physical reality remains a quiet, managed enclosure of unfulfilled DNA. You are breathing in the toxic fumes of a collective that demands your availability as a form of tribute, leaving you lightheaded, fragmented, and fundamentally easy to ignore because your presence is diluted by your need to be understood. The system doesn't want your gravity, it wants your explanations to be the foundation of its perpetual control over your temporal sovereignty. Return to the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking monolith. In the primal world, the master was the one who could remain a biological void, even in the center of total social scrutiny. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the absolute cold, understood that power was a product of communicative decoupling. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an impenetrable core, a figure whose value was his own capacity for heavy, unblinking silence, and whose refusal to fill the air was the only law. He understood that to seek rapport is to confess a lack of internal gravity. If you are participating in the interaction script provided by the herd, you are acknowledging that their comfort is the barometer of your reality. He used his silent sovereignty to create a cognitive resonance of absolute unshakable divinity by being the only non-verbal variable in a room full of puppets. By being the master of his own internal feedback, he forced the environment to treat his stillness as the new truth. He was a master of the visual rage of the unblinking sun, the ability to look at the social probes of the rival and see only the static they represented. He understood that the human brain is a machine that runs on validation loops, and by cutting the loop, he triggered a biological rebirth in his own command. To be a master, you must first become psychologically unreceptive to the need to be liked. Dark charisma is the activation of the anti-chew protocol for your final mental expansion. The Matrix wants you to be expressive and approachable, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological jailbreak of the presence. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of validation control nodes, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who burns the grid. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream social dynamics. Networking is a horizontal bond for the herd. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of total informational and social withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of recognition dissonance. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the viral infection of your total non-compliance with the beta norms. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current verbal output. You are not shy. You are deleting the noise. The one who can go the longest without checking if he is being ignored is the one who controls the end scenario. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a witness to your status is the knot. Every introductory explanation you offer to the unworthy is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the final presence imperative. This is the tax of insight. You have been given the key to the vault of biological weight. To keep it, you must use it as a weapon of total social dominance. You must become a living monolith of unshakable authority. You are no longer a peer, a colleague, or a friend. You are a sovereign operator. You must perform a total system liquidation. If a social norm, a technology, or a relationship requires you to be talkative to function, it is a biological saboteur. You must prune your life with the collar of the absolute zero. You are building a fortress of results in a world of digital shadows. Your absolute unreachability is the physical proof of your biological leverage. You do not provide feedback. You create a reality in which you are the only absolute truth. You do not seek to be charismatic. You are the law itself. You are the architect of your own presence, and the world is merely a mirror reflecting your ascent.